We're just outside of Milan, Italy, to check out this place, the Alfa Romeo Museum. It's my first time in Italy, and therefore I have to make sure I stop out at some of my favorite automobile museums and see what they have inside. So with that in mind, come along with me and go for a little bit of the journey through the Alfa Romeo Museum halls, and let's see what we find. Now, starting in this hall, we have a number of Alfa Romeo's historic models from over the decades, going all the way back from 1910 up through the 60s and 70s. But here we have a really interesting centerpiece, the new 33 Stradale Supercar, limited to 33 units, to pay homage to one of the most beautiful cars and Alfa Romeos in their history, the original 33 Stradale, of which they made, I think, 18, so a bit fewer than this one. So of course this is designed to pay homage to that car. Developed in partnership by Stellantis with the Maserati MC20, so therefore it uses the same twin-turbo mid-mounted V6, but of course with much more evocative design language to have very specific historic detailing, like these taillights in the rear end design and the double bubble shape of that rear glass, to pay tribute to, again, what is considered one of the most beautiful cars of all time, a priceless classic, the original. This one also commanding quite a premium over the MC20 Maserati, of which it shares its platform. But these are just so cool. Look at the shapes all around the side, the sculpting of those intakes. Love the biohazard shape to those Alfa Romeo wheels. And of course, the iconic red color. Here in the front, you can see more of the headlight design that pays tribute to those wide, or really like tall headlight units that were used on the original model. And of course, the classic Alfa Romeo heart-shaped grille in the front. Really cool to see that. What an amazing shape behind some of the classics like the Giulia Super and other sprint models over the years. 6Cs and 8C race cars. And some more of Alfa's classics over here, going through the years, including one of my favorites, the Bertoni-styled Montreal, one of the coolest of the 70s sports cars and supercars. I just love the look, the signature tip up in the rear of the door frame here before you get to these vents, and just the overall shape of this thing. Especially love the eyelashes here that pop up to reveal the full headlamps and that hood scoop. Lovely orange color on this example, just absolutely amazing shape, again, from Alfa Romeo and their partnership with Bertoni for this particular car. And then some of their compact classics from over the years, the Alfa Sud and the Alfetta from the 70s. Some of their classic sedans from over the years, the 75, the 164, one of my favorites, love the boxy styling on those, and then the much rounder 156 from the 90s, and then of course one of their most beautiful cars ever, the 8C Competizione in coupe form, in the color, with the wheels. Just amazing. Never get tired of seeing an 8C. And here is one of Alfa's wildest show cars from the past, the Carabo, styled by Marcello Gandini from Bertone at the time on what was to become the underpinnings of the eventual 33 Stradale car. They made this dramatic wedge shape from the wedge era. I mean, what more can you say? Look at the pinch of this thing from where it first starts to where it rises up in the end, the crease in that door and the window, massive doors at that, and these insanely dramatic louvers covering the rear clamshell with this very 80s styling to the rear end with this like grid that includes the taillights as well as just the overall rear valence and bumper, quad exhaust. Look at that specific badging there for Carabo. Just looks so insane. And there are so many other wild cars in this floor of the museum for their show cars. Here we have the Iguana, styled by Ital Design. And what is this over here? This is the 33/2 Coupe Speciale. I don't know anything about this one. Clearly something off of the 33 Stradale chassis that they turned into this dramatic shape that looks like straight up alien, or like a Ferrari 330 piece P3/4 of its day. And then here we have another one, the Nuvola. This was a concept at the time in the 90s, previewing some of their upcoming styling language. And what else we got? Whatever this is. I don't know much about that, but I've seen pictures of it before. Then we've got some other cars over here by Touring Superleggera, with this one being one of the most iconic. This is the Disco Volante, the original car. They also made a homage to this in modern times with Touring Superleggera, but this was the original C52 Disco Volante, flying saucer in Italian, because look at the really alien-like shape of this one as well. especially at the rear where it pinches into these tiny little bullet taillights. I mean, just look at that shape. That is so wild. Only the Italians could build a functional racer as dramatic as something like this. More incredible cars from Alfa Romeo's past as we step into this next floor of the museum here. We've got some of their earlier classics like the Junior Zagato here, a very interesting and perhaps polarizing styling take on the Alfa Romeo 1600 Junior at the time. Very interesting front end, especially on that car. And then moving into one of their most iconic sport compact cars from the day, the Giulia Sprint GTA, a car that dominated in touring series racing and has also inspired numerous modern builds and resto mods paying tribute to this amazing compact sports car. Moving into other iterations of the Giulia, we have the Sprint GT, as well as the classic Giulia TZ, or the TZ1, now due to the fact that it has contributed to 3 total TZ cars over the decades. But this was the original TZ car built off of the Giulia, incredibly lightweight build that went racing, and of course included some homologated road cars like the example we have here. And then moving ahead into a Giulietta, or a Giulia Super, and then also a Giulietta Sprint Zagato, or SZ. Very interesting elongated bubbly shape on that one, again from the Zagato design house that they made this car in partnership with for Alfa Romeo. And then here is another evocative shape from their past, the Giulietta Sprint Speciale from the 50s. Looking almost similar to some of the styling elements on that original Disco Volante, but with a hardtop enclosed coupe design styled by Bertone. Very interesting. And then additional iterations of the Giulietta over here from the years prior. But some amazing collections of Alfa Romeo's storied past here. The last couple floors in the museum feature a number of Alfa Romeo's classic racers, including vehicles like this, the original 159 Grand Prix car, also a 158 that preceded it right there. But these are some of their most dramatic and successful race cars from the time. Of course, Alfa Romeo has a long history going all the way back through the 20s in races like not just Formula One and Grand Prix cars, but also the Mille Miglia Rally. And you can get a sense of that throughout the museum here, especially looking at this wall here where you see a collection of all of their races entered over the year, along with the respective drivers and vehicles that they piloted, going all the way up through modern times, it seems. But just look at the scale of everything, especially in the pre-war era and through the 50s and the 60s. The number of races and championships they've garnered with some of these cars is truly impressive. This is another one of their race cars, which is just insane. I didn't know this one before. It's called the 512, but just look at how crazy that seating position is, how far forward the driver is from the engine and the rest of the bodywork. You're nearly sitting on the front axle, which of course not ideal for a car racing at speed, but just a very interesting shape and overall chassis design on this car with that tiny little windscreen before you make your way to this massive bodywork coming down to a point at the end. Just an insane machine. And just like we saw up top at the early part of the museum, here's the original 33 Stradale. One of 18, beautiful, one of their most insane shapes from the years, one of the most beautiful cars of all time, which is why they brought it back with that new iteration of the 33 Stradale we saw upstairs. Here's one of the original street cars. Moving on to some of their amazing race cars from the prototype and touring series, we have some of these original Type 33 examples with various iterations of bodywork, like this one here, the Type 33/2 Daytona, with a more aerodynamic interpretation of the race car, compared to this open top version here, looking more almost like a Can-Am era machine. Type 33/3 is the one we're looking at here versus the Type 2. And then moving into some of my favorites here, these are the insane Type 33 twin-turbo 12-cylinder cars. You can see, of course, completely open-top spider design. I believe this was more or less a Can-Am era machine from the 70s with that periscope mirror looking towards the rear. That was the only sightline the driver had, along with one little wing mirror in this example. But these insane mid-mounted V12 engines fed by this massive scoop right above the driver's head. Some additional NACA ducts and other intakes here integrated into this incredibly wide, dramatic bodywork. The adjustable rear wings at the back in the iconic Alfa Romeo red, of course. These were just wild looking. and absolutely insane in terms of performance and ferocity. You can imagine how light these were as well with the amount of power they were producing. Must have been an absolute terror to drive these. But man, look at that. They look so insane and dramatic. This one here fitted with headlights. This one completely flush bodywork with no lighting. Wild. And then here's the continuation in the TZ series, the Alfa Romeo TZ2, still styled by Zagato, of course, but you can see compared to the first one, much bigger and longer, but still carrying that evocative shape that really looks incredibly similar to a Ferrari 250 GTO and similar race cars from the era. But of course, it maintains this little front cooling flap here that the first TZ car had, as it continues the lineage of Alfa Romeo's racing, which this car also performed quite admirably in. And you can see it also maintains the rear camtail design that the first TZ car had as well. And then jumping over here real quick, a couple of their Formula One cars from the 70s and 80s, it looks like. Don't know the specifics on these, but this one looks to be a test car of some sort. And then moving over here, one that I love, my favorite vintage DTM car, the 155 Ti DTM in the iconic Alfa Romeo livery. And that concludes our first visit of the Alfa Romeo Museum here outside of Milan. What an awesome place to check out for the first time. Some amazing classic cars and sports cars from Alfa Romeo's past in there. Highly recommend a visit if you're in the area or in Italy. Definitely worth a stop for any enthusiasts. But until next time, please like and subscribe for more content on the channel, and I'll catch you next time.